Welcome back everybody to another one of my time-lapse model build videos. This particular video is episode 2 in a 5-episode series where I go through the building of my 109 kits. And this particular one is going to be my Eduard 109G. Now this kit's a little bit different in that I don't have a standard kit. I am using the Eduard overtrees, which literally just comes in a white box with a logo on the end, a little sticker showing what's inside the box, and all you get are plastic sprues. You don't get instructions, you don't get decals, you don't get photo etch, you don't get any of that. It is just strictly plastic in the kit. I am using a aftermarket set of decals from BarracudaCals, BarracudaCals as they call themselves, to do up a 109G. So you'll get to see that. No complaints. Eduard is an amazing, amazing company. And these aftermarket decals are just amazing. So the kit goes together extremely easily. But on that note, let's get into this video. And before that, my name is Sean and this is Sean's Aviation. Right off the bat, I'd like to thank everybody who's out there watching this video. If you like what you see and you haven't yet, go down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Get to see some of the videos as I release them. I do try to get a couple of videos out. About 4 videos a month is what I aim for. 4 to 5 depending on the month, depending on how much time I have and what content I have. As well, all of that helps the channel, but if you'd like to help in a bit more of a concrete financial way, don't feel obligated. I don't want that to be the point of this channel. But if you do like to help out a little bit extra, a little bit more or in a financial way, by all means, down below, you'll see a link to my coffee account. Go out, buy me a coffee. I've always got one going. Always appreciate having that little bit of help on the side if you guys can and or want. But by all means, do not feel obligated. I do this for what I love and for you to see what I love. With that being said, let's jump into this video. You guys get to watch me completely build a Eduard 109G in 1/48 scale. As usual with these aircraft models, I do start with the cockpit. You'll notice also throughout this video, I don't actually, as I think I mentioned in the intro, I don't actually have instructions for this. So I'm using my, sometimes I use the computer, sometimes you'll see me using my phone. I just download the instructions off the Eduard website, and I just look at the digital PDF on my phone or the computer, and that allows me to actually build the model. So in case you're wondering how I do that, that is how I pull that off. here we are. Quick mid-build update before I start the assembly of the fuselages. You'll have seen I've got the cockpits painted. This is one of the later style 109, so it has the darker gray as compared to the lighter gray you would have seen if you watched the 109E video. But it is basically ready to go. I've got all of the paint done. I picked up the details. I black washed. I've dry brushed. I've glued the instrument panel onto the forward bulkhead. Because this was the overtrees kit, and as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't come with any of the photo etch or any of the decals or anything that is normally included in an Eduard kit. I don't have the decal for the instrument panel, so I've just done a little bit of dry brushing and black wash. I might do a little bit, you got the 109E cockpit here, I might do a little bit just to try to match some of that. I know it's a slightly different cockpit, but I might just pick out some of the little bits of red or something on here just to make it look a little bit more colorful, make a bit of pop on that instrument panel. I do plan on presenting this one with the cockpit open, so a little bit of extra pop in there might not be a bad thing. But other than that, it does have that bit of pop with the yellow, the fuel line. I'm assuming that's a fuel line that runs through the cockpit. When you put it all together, it definitely looks really good in along that wall. So that's going to make a little bit of a pop. And it might be enough. I might do a little bit of work on the instrument panel there. Just pick just some random red dots just to make it look nice. Not entirely sure yet. I'll deal with that when I get down the road. And then these are the other things. This is the armor plate for inside the canopy that sits in here somewhere. And then this is the rear decking that goes in the behind the canopy. So that kind of fits into here. So all of that's ready to go. So the next step, I'm going to start assembling some of this, getting ready to glue this cockpit together. I might do a quick pop on this instrument panel. We'll see how it goes. But other than that, stay tuned. Obviously, keep an eye out. We will move on to the assembly of the fuselage and moving on to the rest of the build. And we'll do another one of these updates a little later. And just before I forget, I did also glue in the exhaust stacks on this kit. They do get glued in from the inside out, so it has to be done before the cockpit gets together. It's going to make life a little bit more difficult. I won't be able to do any type of alclad on the exhaust stacks the way I normally do. I think I might just pick them out after I'm finished doing all of the painting with some of that Vallejo water-based steel. Just hit those with a bit of that and then do a little tiny bit of weathering on it after the fact. But I'll have to do the exhaust staining, flat coat it, and then go through and paint those and do a little bit of weathering after the fact. So we'll see how that goes. First time I'll be doing that in a sort of a exhaust glued into place before final painting. But you know, another little skill I might be able to stash away in my toolbox. So on that note, please stay tuned. We'll keep going and we'll catch you on the next update. So at this point I am starting to glue the fuselage together, and you'll see me start with the wings. Now this Eduard kit being a little bit more of a modern, quote-unquote advanced kit, the landing gear bays actually are multiple pieces that we put together, and it gives you different pieces for different variants, and took a little bit of fiddly time and research to make sure I used the right ones, but it eventually did go together, and as you'll see, the wheel wells end up looking really, really good on this kit. And here you'll see I get some of the minor seams sanded. I mean, more or less this kit was great. There was a little bit of a step along the lower fuselage. You'll see I use a little tiny bit of putty just to fix up the worst of it. But all in all, this kit went together really smooth. Highly recommend these Eduard kits for anybody out there looking to build a good 109. But yeah, it goes together really quick. A little bit of putty and a little bit of sanding to get everything cleaned up, and then you'll see me get the final assembly done. And here I glue the radiators on the bottom of the wings. I found these to be a little finicky, and I'm not sure why. The actual radiator faces that are supposed to glue into position were too big, and the actual like housings wouldn't fit once they were glued in place. I ended up having to just remove them, and I only used the rear ones. The front ones are fine. The rear ones just didn't want to fit. I'm not entirely sure if it's an issue with how I put it together, or an issue with the instructions or the kit parts, or what ended up happening. But either way, I just kind of modified it a little bit, and as you'll see, I still got it all together, and it looks good. Very little seam work need to be done around those once they're installed. And here I go with the masking of the canopy. As usual, if you guys haven't seen the video yet, I'll put a link at the top to my video, my tips and tricks video on actually how I do the masking, so you can see that. And if you're not too sure how to mask canopies, you can see it up there. But again, I use the masking tape and sharp knife method to mask this off, and super easy. The canopies have really easy, clear delineation between what is a window and what is a frame, and it's super easy to mask. here you'll see I'm masking off the wheel wells, as this will be built with the wheels down. I needed a way to mask off the wheels, so you'll see I use a little bit of like the Milliput sticky putty stuff to hold the gear door in place, and then I mask the little opening with just a little bit of masking tape and some Kleenex in order to paint the exterior without getting the paint down inside those wheel wells. And then once it's all finished at the end, I'll assemble everything and weather it all at the end. And now you'll see I do have the aircraft completely primed with the Vallejo primer. I use that mostly as a way to double check all my seams and ensure that I don't have any extra sanding to do. I think, as you'll notice here, there is a little bit of extra work I need to do on it before I move on, as well as getting all the little bits ready to go. And then I get that lower gray painted off, and then you'll see I go ahead and I start masking off the lower gray in order to paint the upper two-tone gray colors, RLM 74 and RLM 75. And in this case, I'm using the Model Master oil-based paints. I didn't have those. I had those left over. I used to use oil-based paints, and as I'm running out, I'm replacing with Vallejo Model Air acrylic. So I still had two relatively good-to-go oil-based versions of those colors, so I finished up with that. And you'll see I do the splinter camo with that. And quite a bit of masking involved, and you'll see the process as I go through and get all that done throughout the painting process. So exactly what you don't want to have happen just happened. If you caught it on the time lapse there, you would have seen it. But this entire section, I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see. So yeah, this entire section has had the primer. Sorry for the shaking. The entire section here has had the primer just peel off the plastic, and I'm not entirely sure why. There doesn't seem to be any residue on it, and around it stuck fine, but for whatever reason, all the primer I laid down just peeled right up off this section. And I should have known because there was a part here that peeled. But, you know, I was hopeful that it would not become a problem, but it has. So what I'm going to end up doing at this point is it peeled off a little bit of this dark gray that I just painted, and I have a bit more to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray the dark gray into here, and then I'm going to mask off the gray section on the top and the bottom, and I'll just go through with the light gray and fill that in a little later. There's not much else I can do, and just hope that it bonds properly to the plastic this time around. I've had issues with this Vallejo primer peeling like this before, and I thought I got past it, but apparently didn't. So I just have to stay on top of cleaning the plastic a bit better, making sure it doesn't happen. But anyways, on this note, I'm going to head back. I'm going to get this dark gray painted, get the rest of this gray painted, and then we'll move on. So here we go. So here we are for a quick mid-build update on the 109G, and as I'm sure you've seen, it has been painted. Didn't go without its issues. For whatever reason, I can never build models without having a couple of issues, especially when it comes to paint. And in this particular one, it peeled off a huge section over here. The primer just peeled right off of the model. And then I touched it up, and the gray, for whatever reason, doesn't match quite right. But again, this is going to have some whitewash on it. It's going to be, it's got like an Arctic whitewash scheme thing going on. So I'm hoping that that is going to hide a multitude of sins, and you shouldn't really notice too many of those issues once I get that done. As you see here, I am pulling the masking out of the wheel wells. I don't need to keep them masked anymore, so I can just go ahead and pull those out. Next steps on this, I'm going to start clear coating. That's my immediate next step, is get a layer of future on this to seal everything. And then once that's sealed, I can do decals, and then a light weathering, and then I'm going to put the whitewash on top of that, and then do a little bit of weathering on top of the whitewash. So you can see the layers of kind of plane was used, plane got dirty, plane got whitewashed, plane got used and dirty. So that's where I want to go with that. I'm hoping, again, the whitewash will hide a bunch of this stuff and make it look good. Yellow turned out really well. Yellow is usually a hard color to paint, but it turned out really well on this one. The only real things I have left to do for this is just the RLMO2 inside the slat tracks here, but I can mask and do that after. I might even brush it by hand. I might do with an airbrush and some masking. We'll see a little later. And then I still got to paint the prop and spinner, so I got to do that. And then other than that, it's just going to be, like I said, the decals, some weathering, a flat coat, and then I'll be ready to start putting the final little bits on. So we're moving right along with that, and it looks really, really good. So stay tuned for some more on that one. And then here, as I do mention, I gloss coat prior to decal. I'm just using Future floor polish. I'm not entirely sure what it's branded as today. Mine is a number of years old now. I don't tend to go through it quite quickly, so it takes years and years and years to work my way through a bottle. It used to be called Future, and then it was like Pledge with Future Care, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know if or what it's branded as right now. But it is an amazing gloss coat. It goes on super thin. You can brush it on as you see it self-levels, and you get a nice thin coat in order to go ahead to do your decals, as well as it creates a barrier. So you can do water-based oils or water-based wash on top of water-based paint, or oil-based wash on top of oil-based paint, and it doesn't affect it. It creates a good barrier where whatever you do after paint won't actually affect your paint in any way, and it's a really good idea to do this if you're going to go ahead with a weathering step. And here you can see me actually applying the decals. As I mentioned a couple of times, I used BarracudaCals or BarracudaCals. Went down really, really easily. Using Solvaset as my decal setting solution, and it reacted perfectly. There was no any weird bubbling or running or anything like that. It worked out quite well, and the decal settled in very nicely. Highly, highly recommend BarracudaCals. Haven't used them very much, but I'm very, very happy with how they turned out. here, time for a quick mid-build update on this 109G. It has, as I'm sure you've seen, it is coming along perfectly. It looks great. Decals went down smooth using the those BarracudaCals. Worked out really well. The paint issue of all that paint peeling, I'm hoping it's been fixed. All this, it hasn't had any issues. All the future and everything is holding it down. My only issue when I painted, for whatever reason, the color didn't go down right, and I think I might have used the wrong color, to be perfectly honest. I think I used the different shade from the other 109 on this one. But at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about it because it might look, you know, it kind of looks like a bit of on-the-spot battle damage repair. This one still has the most amount of work, I guess, to get it to the next step. I'm going to have to do I'm going to do all the panel wash, the black panel wash. Then I'm going to do the white coat that needs to go over top of it. In case it's been a while since I talked about it, I am doing this version here, and there's these white splotches that need to go over top of it. So I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to just use white temper paint, and then I'm going to feather the bottom edges of it a little bit. Clean that up so it looks like it's solid on the top, and as it comes down the sides, it's going to kind of wear off. So I got to do that still. So I'm going to do black panel wash, then the white wash. Clean the white wash up a little bit, take it off any areas it's got to be taken off of, make sure the feathered edges look really, really nice. Then I'm going to go through and do the black, you know, the exhaust staining and the gun staining and that kind of stuff after the fact. And that will basically give it the look that the whitewash was applied kind of part way, right? The aircraft was used, it got dirty, whitewash was applied, and then it got dirty again. That's the look I'm going for. We'll see how I can pull it off. But yeah, other than that, the Eduard kit goes together extremely well. It has some finicky spots, especially in the cockpit. Some little bits and pieces that take a bit of effort to get looking right. But overall, it goes together super easy. No real complaints. I'm glad all the yellow turned out really well. I was worried about the masking of the yellow and getting the color to look right. It turned out really well. Yellow is a very difficult color to paint, but it turned out well. And then I'm more or less caught up all the little bits in here. You know, I'm well ahead. I've got landing gear and gear doors and everything are all set to go. And I am missing, oh, there it is. So yeah, landing gear and gear doors are good to go. All these little flaps and stuff, some of them have decals on them. Some of them don't, but they're all ready to be installed with the flaps down. I just got to go ahead and, oh, that goes on this side. Helps if I'm putting it on the right place. So all of these just have to go ahead and be put into place. The flaps, these radiator flaps, I'm going to do a little different, where I'm going to have the upper part open and the bottom part down, so you can actually look inside the radiators. So those are all ready to go. The slats, the inside of the slats have been painted, so they're ready to go. I went ahead and brush painted the insides of that, and again I masked it all off as one, so when the slats are mounted down, you're still going to be able to see the paint lines line up. So that's going to be nice to do. Get that finished, get the look right. It's always important. I haven't painted the wheel hubs, same as my E model. I still have to do the wheel hubs on that. So those I can all do at the same time. Prop and spinner is all set to go, more or less. I have to clean up the insides a little bit. They don't like to fit. I've tried this before and it's a super tight fit. But the spinner, the black spinner with the spiral in the middle, turned out really well. I'm very happy with that. I'm always leery of the spiral spinners, but that one turned out really well, and you can see it's going to look good all put together. So we're in the right place at this point. As I said, once I get the weathering and the whitewash done, after that, other than the wheel hubs, it's just assembling all the fiddly bits and getting it to a state that I like. So we're moving in the right direction. Canopy's already painted. I haven't pulled the tape off yet because I do plan to flat coat that as well, but it's going to be assembled in the open position. So I still have to get that done, but that's an easy step. But we're in a good place. So at this point, it's just a matter of getting the weathering done, get the whitewash done, and then I'll start assembling the small bits. So I'm very happy, and we're moving right along. So stay tuned, and we'll get to see the end of this one. here we are. I'm going to try to do the white overspray, because I'm going to do it by hand. I got a bit of white tempera paint. This is just the basic stuff you can pick up at any arts and crafts store. I've mixed it with a bit of water, thinned it down, kind of like to a milk, like a thick milk, watery milkshake, somewhere in there. Just a nice consistency. And I am literally just going to brush this onto the kit. If I don't like it, I can just wipe it off. It's water-based, so it doesn't take much. But I'm just going to brush this on. Make sure I get this right. Something like that. I want this to look rough. That's the point. It's supposed to look like it was painted over top of the existing paint in a bit of a rush.
Actually, in an hour's time, it's going to be 14 degrees. We have a bit of a sudden heat wave. Well, I'm not complaining. It means that we actually can possibly start to print some props today. So anyway, I was going to take a look at the...
Okay, so I got the first coat down. I just went and quickly used the hair dryer I have at the paint booth to give it a wire, spray it down or heat it up, get this white to dry quick. I want to go through and add another coat. I still want it to look rough, but I want it to look a little bit less rough than it currently looks. So I'm hoping a quick application of a second coat will smooth the color out a little bit and just get rid of some of the streaking. Although it is softening what's underneath and making it a little bit more streaky than I'd like. But I think I can live with it. I think I can live with it. And here, just before I get ready to do the final flat coat, you'll see I go through and do some of the little things I still need to do with landing gear, weathering of the wheel wells and the landing gear, getting the flaps installed, all these little things that I need to do before the flat coat. And then once I get that final flat coat installed, then there's kind of that next step of where you'll see where I go ahead and I paint things like the steel exhaust stacks and all that kind of stuff, pull the masking off, install the canopy, all those other final little things. You got to be kind of careful as well. You don't want a lot of, you got to make sure you flat coat before you unmask so you don't fog your canopies, but you also have to make sure that you don't have a lot of little fiddly bits on, which is really easy to break things off as you're handling the model. So there's kind of this order you have to do things on to make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself, and you just got to be careful. And finally, right here at the end, you can see I've got the wheels, the landing gear doors, all those little things glued on, and I'm starting to glue the canopy. It is glued open, so I made sure that was properly installed and hanging in the right angle and all that stuff. And then it's just a matter of getting it done. And here you go. You'll see some pictures at the end of the work completed, how the model looks. So enjoy, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.